Welcome back to the ShrikeCast. My name is Andrew Crouthamel, and today we are going to go over SNMP with your SonicWALL. This is probably the most underutilized, misunderstood protocol out there. Those experienced IT have spent the time to figure it out and really learn SNMP. I have found difficulties getting good training material for it. It's one of those things where people write up a few blurbs on some websites about how you can use it, but don't really go into the hows and whys and whatnot. So it's a kind of a complex topic. Maybe someday in the future I'll put together some SNMP for Beginners series or something like that. But SNMP, the Simple Network Management Protocol, uses UDP port 161 and 162 if you use SNMP traps. It works the same here on a SonicWALL, though you can adjust your ports if you wish for different things. And what SNMP really does for you is provide you details about the device or the operating system that the device through a protocol that it reports values about different interesting things about that device or operating system. So with the SonicWALL, there's some things that we might find interesting, such as the CPU load on a SonicWALL, the memory usage, the number of connections that your firewall is managing. That's an important one, especially when you have spam bots and adware and spyware infections and things like that, and viruses on your network. You can determine if someone's has a mass mailing worm based on the number of connections. So that's an interesting value to grab, as well as other things such as interface bandwidth utilization, static information such as what routes are available on the router. You can also do some other more advanced things, and if it's running a higher intensity operating system like Microsoft or Linux, you can pull out a whole ton of OS based things as well, such as disk usage and whatnot. But in terms of the SonicWALLs, there's probably like a half dozen interesting values that I like to grab, and I wanted to share that with you. So how do we enable SNMP on a SonicWALL? What you would do is you go under your interfaces, and you're going to configure that on the interface that you wish. So we go under interfaces, LAN, configure the LAN, and I can then check to make sure that SNMP is enabled. So if it's unchecked, it's disabled. I'm on live demo here, so they have it enabled. I'm on a TZ215 wireless, and they already have it set up here for us. But quite often on like a brand new basic out-of-the-box SonicWALL, this stuff's going to be disabled. So go in and check it off. If you are managing your SonicWALLs from the local side, the LAN side, then you're going to want to enable it on the LAN interface. If you want to be a bit more risky, and I say that, and if not really risky in SonicWALLs because it's only read-only anyway, but you can, if you want to go a little bit more risky, enable it on your WAN and then grab information across the WAN. Now with that, I would probably say add some firewall rules to limit what connections can access your SonicWALL from specific IPs for SNMP. I wouldn't open that up to the whole world, but you can transmit it over the WAN if you wish. So we can then turn on SNMP for the WAN if we wanted. So how do you adjust the SNMP configuration after it's enabled? So we've enabled it in our interfaces that we want to manage our SonicWALL from. How do we go in and modify things? It's going to be underneath your administration section. So under System Administration, if we scroll on down here, we should have a Enable SNMP. So down here, we're going to also have to check this off to enable SNMP on the device, and then go in and configure SNMP. So this is the SonicWALL Live Demo one. Usually all this stuff is blank, so it's all empty. Like how they have Snoopy. So if you see here, we have a series of things that are available. We have system information that we can type in as the administrator. This only really matters to the person who's looking at the data from SNMP. So if you're the administrator of the SonicWALL as well as the administrator of your SNMP system, then it really doesn't matter what's in here unless you really want to fill it out. Some of the host information you don't really need. The thing that we care about mostly is the get community name. So we can use version 1 and 2C on a SonicWALL. I think they're planning for version 3 eventually, but right now it's 1 and 2C. If you have the option, use version 2C. It's much nicer than version 1. It'll really help you with performance of your SNMP management system. Use 2C whenever you can. So what we do is we're going to add in a community name. The community name on SNMP basically is a password. It's a basic plain text, simple password. So as we saw before, they had Snoopy in here. So when you try to poll this device for SNMP values on port 161 UDP, in there it's going to say my community name is Snoopy. If that matches the Snoopy that's on the device, then it says, okay, passwords match, here's the data that you're requesting. And it sends it back. Same with trap community name. You can have a different password for the traps if you want that set up. So what is an SNMP trap? An SNMP trap is where the device actually sends back to its management system that, hey, something has changed. Please log this. Please take note of this change, such as when an interface goes up or down, or a new route is added, or something like that. It might generate a trap. Most people don't set that up. I would say, from my experience, what I've seen, if you have the basic polling system of the gets community configured, that's your first, you're 90% of the way there. At least you're getting the information from your device. If you want to set up traps later, then go for it. So there we go. We add in a community name. Go ahead and click OK, and then that would save it into the device, and now it has a password, a community name of Snoopy. Now, before I said if you use it on the WAN, that's more risky. Well, in SNMP you can have read only as well as write. So in a SonicWALL, they only allow you to do read only on the device. So if someone finds out your community name of your SNMP on the SonicWALL, they can't use that to make changes on the SonicWALL through SNMP using the write functionality, because the write functionality isn't even built into the SonicWALL. You can't do it. So if they find your SNMP community name, the worst thing they can do is find out the information about your SonicWALL. So yes, that's a bad thing still, but it's not as bad. It's still bad, but it's not as bad. So hopefully I didn't shoot myself in the foot there from those who are security conscious. So we've turned it on, we've enabled SNMP, we've configured it. So what do we do from here? From the SonicWALL side of things, we're done. That's it. We've gave it a community name, it's enabled. We're using the default ports right now of 161, and that's it. So now we have to have a management system. There's tons of them out there. I really enjoy Xenos, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It's a free it's open source and closed if you buy the pro version, but they have an open source community version, Xenos.org, which is a free version of their SNMP and overall management and event monitoring system for devices. So you can do this SNMP, WMI, ping, a ton of different features. And I really like to use that for my SNMP system. So I'm going to show you what you would want to grab off of that. So in the SonicWALL, what we're going to do is connect to a SonicWALL, and we're going to grab some information off of it. So what I've done is I'm opening up a Linux system here, and actually this is running off of Raspberry Pi. Any of you who are interested in the Raspberry Pi, I'm actually setting up an educational distro based on the Raspberry Pi, so that's what I'm running here. And in Linux we can do the SNMP Walk command. And SNMP Walk walks through all the values that are available and grabs all the values that are available from a device. So what I'm going to do is grab SNMP from a SonicWALL, and I have it showing all these values. And it'll scroll through and go and go and go, and there are tons of things that are available to retrieve from our SonicWALL. So what we have on the left there is our OID value. These are object identifier values. And this is a standardized system that is, each of these is kind of like a folder. Each number is like a grouping, a folder. And you go further and further into the folder structure basically until you reach OID value this, which is a string. OID value this, which means something else. And you have to go and look up what these values are and what this OID tree means. This is the very basic of SNMP. So you have the OID values. You may have heard of MIB values before, Management Information Base. MIB files are basically a mapping of names, from a basic perspective, are a mapping of names to the OID values to help you as the administrator determine, well, what the heck is this value? So don't think of SNMP as a MIB. The MIB really is just like a helper for you. So what I can do actually is tell this thing not to show OID values. And here now you can see all the MIB naming systems. So now OID value 0136116824, whatever it was, now has a name that actually makes sense to us. But in your management system, your Xenos or whatever your SNMP management system is, you might have to put in the full OID values, that really long numerical string. So then you'd have to figure out what that MIB actually translates to otherwise. So I actually like using the OID values because it's more specific to me. The naming system, I use it to reference to find what I want, but then after that I just use the straight OID values. I go right to the source. So there's our OID values that mean different things in the device, and then it tells us, okay, what type of value this is. Is it a string? Is it an integer? Is it a 32-bit or 64-bit counter? What type of value this is? Is it an IP address? What is it? And then it also has values after that. So that's basically what you see here. This is the OID value for something. It's an integer, and then here's the value of the integer. And then us as the administrators have to retrieve those and then make sense of those numbers. So as you saw in a SonicWALL, there are a ton of things you can retrieve, very useful things, as well as not only numerical things, but there's also in the beginning there's some system information such as the name of the device, the firmware version it's running, all sorts of fun things. Actually, what I'll do is I'll do exactly that. So here we have up the top there, you see SonicWALL NSA 4500. There's how long it's been up. This one's been up for a day. We have some other information there as to what interfaces mean what are labeled as what. What's the status of different interfaces, and then values about the interfaces and other things that we care about. So there's some static information up there at the top as well. So what we do is we got to figure out what we care about in our SonicWALL. So the things that I grab right now are very basic. I don't pull everything out. I manage many SonicWALLs, so I really only want some core information from each one. But I wanted to share those with you. So here we are on my Xenos system, and this is my SonicWALL management monitoring template. And in here I've defined certain OID values. These are the source numbers. The OID values that we care about. So you can see most of mine are under 136.141.8741.131, and in there are a couple different values that I care about. So I grab the CPU load, I grab current connections, maximum connections, and memory. So the current and the max, the maximum connections, that's how many actual connections the firewall engine in the SonicWALL can handle. So how many TCP connections can it track as it goes through the SonicWALL? That changes based on how large your device is, how expensive it is, how much CPU processing is in it. That maximum connections value changes. It's not a static thing. A lot of them, the basic ones like TZ100s, it's at like a value of 6,000. The older ones, it was like 4,500 or 3,000. As you get fancier and fancier, the maximum connections go up. So I have a graph built around using the maximum and the current connections values to graph out the current connection, the connections going through the SonicWALL every few minutes. Then we have a memory usage as a percentage base and a CPU load as a percentage base. So those are the four values I really am currently pulling out of all my SonicWALLs. And then in Xenos here I have some thresholds set up, and then I take these values with the thresholds and I create certain graphs. So there I have 3 graphs defined using these 4 data sources and the thresholds. So then what does that actually look like in a real device? If I go under a SonicWALL here, under Xenos, now I've got my CPU load, which is graphing out, my memory usage, which is graphing out as percentage, and then connections. And you can see there's the current connections maximum 6,000, connections current is like 9, or yeah, 7 or 9, 7 currently. So it's, you know, very, very well underneath its maximum. And then below that I have some other things I'm doing with ping and checking latency on devices, which is not related to SNMP. But you can also go in here and there's other default things. So in Xenos they have some basic system OIDs that it grabs no matter what. So even though I specified in my monitoring template over here only 4 values, there's other things that it grabs as well, which are standard. As I mentioned, these OID values and SNMP is a standard out there. So every device, every OS puts data, the very basic data, in the same places. So it knows to go in and grab information about this SonicWALL, and it can go tell us information about the routes. And you say, what routes are on this device? If I had other static routes in here, other interfaces, they would show up. It grabs those as well. And then under interfaces, it'll show me all the different interfaces, what the IP addresses are. And then if I click on an interface, it also, by default, is grabbing the OID values for throughput, number of packets gone through, any errors on the connection. Very useful information. SNMP is very, very useful. And if you look under here, these are some of those other values that it grabs based on what kind of device it is. So you can see it grabs the system uptime, which is at this value. Have some other things based on Cisco routers. It'll grab another series of things. What I would really suggest is, you know, start out with the basic ones that I've got here, like memory and CPU, current connections. You know, grab the system uptime value, and then, you know, look around it and really poke through and find what you want to grab and retrieve from your SonicWALL device. There we go. And then there's the other values as well. So I'll leave this up for a few seconds for the video so you guys can see it. So there's the number of octets in, number of octets out, any errors, the current status, number of packets. That's all that interface information that it pulled for us. So as you can see, it's number of octets. So the values there, you're going to have to do some conversions and you know, some mathematics to convert that into what you want. And then this isn't going to show me the values. That's okay. We were grabbing our other values anyway, so there's the other CPU values. So there's the basics. I wanted to show that to you guys. And then you can also, in SNMP Walk, for example, specify one of these values. So what I can do is, if I want to grab this value, I can cut it short and stop right there at that 1. And there we go. There's those 4 values, 1.1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you can see those reference the different values up here. First one being maximum connections, current connections, CPU load, sorry, and then the memory usage. So you have to really, just learn what these different values are. There are MIB files out there from SonicWALL. You have to really hunt around and find them. I honestly forget where they are. You can call up SonicWALL support and try and get it from them as well if you can't find it online. Beware some of the information you find out there, though. It's old and relates to the old TZ170 line, the Gen 4s. So don't trust everything. It changes every firmware. They release and update things, and I've seen the SNMP values get tweaked, or the OIDs that they report to get tweaked over the last few major firmware revisions. So don't trust outdated data. Do your homework on your own. And that's pretty much it for this video. So I hope that was somewhat useful. I'll go into more SNMP and maybe some Xenos videos down the line, but that's basically how you enable SNMP, what some values you might care about on your SonicWALL, and then if you have it set up in a fancy system, it'll give you nice pretty graphs and pull it every few seconds or so, depending on how you have it set up. And then you can do things from there, make thresholds and report on it and make events and alerts and all sorts of stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, check back next Wednesday for the next one. And go check out andrewcrouthamel.com, which is a blog that I run, and ShrikeTools.com, which is a managed security solutions provider for small and medium businesses. And I will see you guys next week. Thank you.